Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Manifest Your Greatness. Today we're going to talk about self-sabotage. Now, this is a big one. Self-sabotage is when we say we want something and then we go out and make sure it doesn't happen. We self-sabotage ourselves through behaviors, through mindset, through the actions we take. And this is, it's insidious. The thing about self-sabotage is we don't often realize we're doing it. I know I've definitely self-sabotaged myself. And, it's the hard thing about it is that it's an ongoing process to identify and avoid. So today we're going to talk a little bit about self-sabotage, about the ways we can and possibly are self-sabotaging ourselves, and some things that we can do to stop that, identify it, and then to remedy it. So self-sabotage. What's an example? So self-sabotage. Let's just say in this case, let's just say we're planning for an event. Let's say we are training to compete in a half marathon, and it's something we've been planning for, and we're training for it, and we have a routine, and we're sticking to it. Let's just say we want to go out to dinner, and we haven't been out to dinner for a long time with lockdown and COVID and all of these things. I'm sure a lot of us are in this situation, right? We haven't been to going out and having dinner at the places that we maybe typically would frequent. So it's been a long time. So we decide to go out, and we go to our favorite restaurant we haven't been to in a long time, and we go to town. We have all this food that is just so delicious. It's stuff that we haven't had for so long. We're so happy and we're having such a great time. And the dessert menu is fantastic. So we get something off the dessert menu and we're just really, really loving life for the moment, right? It's great. It tastes wonderful. We're so happy. We get home a little late and then, go through our evening routine. And then next morning we're supposed to go out and go run. Next morning we wake up and we're not feeling it. We're not feeling it. Energy levels aren't where they usually would be because we ate the wrong stuff. We overate. Our routine kind of got messed with a little bit. So we decide not to run because we're just not feeling it. Or if we do run, we don't get the effects. We don't, our training level is not what it should have been, and that can really mess with our timeline. And the really scary thing about self-sabotage is once you do it once, you can easily do it again. So you get into a rut because things don't go as expected, and then you self-sabotage yourself, you get frustrated, and then you aren't as motivated to do what you were trying to do anymore because you feel like you've fallen off the horse, right? And then you continue, and then you say, well, if I'm not going to work out today, then maybe I'll take it easy tomorrow as well, or maybe I'll make some other non-healthy decisions that kind of make it harder for me to stay on my timeline to be ready for this event. So that's one example. Another example is, let's say you have you've been selected to make a presentation to your team at work, and the CFO, and we'll say in this case, this is someone that you look up to, or someone that you is more senior than you, and they're going to be there, and you're super nervous and super anxious, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm really bad at speaking in front of people, and I'm really nervous because the CFO is going to be there, and what if he doesn't like my presentation? And you go about planning for it, and then at the last minute, an email comes in, and the CFO is saying, oh, I had to reschedule some things. I'm not going to be in the office that day, so we're going to have to cancel the meeting. And you're ecstatic, right? It's like, oh gosh, I'm so happy I don't have to give this presentation. I was so not looking forward to this presentation. I did not want to do it. I was so nervous. Oh, I'm glad that's over. I'm glad I was able to get out of that one. Now, for the moment, it feels great, right? But what really just happened? Let's take a deeper look at that, right? We had an opportunity to work on some things that we are not confident and comfortable doing. So we had an opportunity to grow. We had an opportunity to get in front of people, put ourselves in a situation that is uncomfortable for us to get better at speaking in front of people, right? To share our knowledge, right? This is a report showing, we're talking about what we know and we're sharing it. So we lost an opportunity to get better at something that we're struggling with. We missed an opportunity to share knowledge with our teammates, and we missed an opportunity to get in front of someone who could potentially positively influence our career, right? So those three things, right? Those three things that, three opportunities that we missed out on, and in the moment we're ecstatic that the meeting didn't happen, but and in this case, it's not our fault. It was canceled, but it's the mindset in this particular situation, right? Because if we think like that, then we're going to be happy about missing out on opportunities because it gives us a way out of putting ourselves in an uncomfortable situation, something we don't want to deal with. And that's where we grow, right? So that is another example of self-sabotage. So let's go ahead and just talk about some ways that we self-sabotage ourselves or possibly could self-sabotage ourselves. And then let's go into look at some ways we can, first of all, let's identify them so that we understand what they look like. And then let's look at some ways that we can overcome the self-sabotaging behavior, actions, mindset. So the first example is, this is a really easy one, and this is also something that we may easily overlook, right? Saying yes when we really should have said no, right? So, I mean, we say yes. Say we're working on a team and you get asked to help out and you want to be a team player and you say, yes, I can help do that. And in a lot of cases, that's a good thing, right? You want to participate, you want to give, you want to contribute. Now, if that comes at the detriment of other things that you've already committed to, maybe it's not a great thing to be saying yes to, right? Because maybe then you are compromising your own integrity, right? You have agreed to deliver on some other things, and now by taking on more, you may not be able to deliver the quality or on the timeline that you've already promised yourself and others that you would. So in this case, saying yes too often can be self-sabotaging, right? Because it can actually be putting you in a spot that is jeopardizing your overall intent, which is to do really good work and get it done on time. So you could sabotage efforts that you've been your efforts to get a raise or to be noticed by the people you want to in the office, or to get in someone's good graces, whatever it may be. You could sabotage that by saying yes to too many things and then letting yourself and others down by not being able to deliver, right? So that's one way we self-sabotage. So saying yes when we should say no. Another way is insisting on your own way. So, and this is an example of this could be, let's say you're planning a trip and you've got several friends that you're going to be traveling together with, and you get together to discuss how you're going to, how the trip's going to go. So you're talking about where you're going to stay and what kind of car you're going to rent and what events you're going to go to and what restaurants that you want to eat at, all these things. And, and if you are so fixated on wanting certain things out of that trip specifically, and you push too hard, right? And you're insisting on, I want to do this. And that you could self-sabotage not only the trip, but your relationships, right? So insisting on your own way to the point where you're overlooking, or you are undermining the purpose of the trip altogether, or the event altogether, that can be self-sabotaging. So that's another way, is insisting on getting your way. So we need to be really aware of that. Flexibility and keeping the larger goal in mind oftentimes can help us, not self-sabotage in this way. Another one is reacting instead of responding. So when we act out our feelings in certain situations, that can be a bad thing, right? I mean, it has to be done sometimes when you're dealing with people in an environment where it's like, okay, let's put our cards on the table and let's discuss this and let's be open and get everything out there. That's one thing. But if you're in an environment where you have certain social norms, right? And you're trying to work through something in a productive way, in a structured way. And let's say you're having a meeting and one of the people in the meeting slighted you, said something you didn't like in a previous meeting, and you're holding a grudge against them. And then you're trying to get through this meeting and take in comments and work with people, and they say something and maybe it's constructive, maybe it's not, but they make a comment and then you snap at them. That could be a self-sabotaging action, right? So something to think about. We definitely want to be more often than not responding with care and thought and tact, and not reacting, letting our feelings and our emotions kind of run our mouths for us, right? So that's another way we can self-sabotage. Another one is not taking care of ourselves, right? Not taking care of our bodies, right? If we are saying things like, oh yeah, I want to be able to go out and spend time with the people I care about more, and I want to be able to go on these trips with my family and my friends, and I want to be able to do these more athletic activities or whatever it might be, and we're not taking care of ourselves, then that's self-sabotage, right? Because we're saying one thing, we're saying, hey, this is what I want. I want to be able to do these things. I want to be healthy, but you're not staying active, right? And active doesn't mean like going to the gym every day. It could be anything. It could be going for hikes. It could be bike rides. It could be going for a swim. It could be yoga, or even taking a walk on a regular basis, right? So we don't. I think when we think about taking care of our bodies, we can set these lofty goals, and because the goals are so lofty, we don't do anything, or because they seem so out of reach, we end up subconsciously kind of giving up, right? So we're saying consciously, we're saying out loud, yes, this is what I want. I want to be more healthy. I want to be more healthy. I want to be more healthy. I want to, be able to run, a half marathon in an hour, and you never run a half marathon, or your best time is an hour and 35 minutes. That's a huge improvement, right? That you're working towards. But if you feel it's too lofty, you may self-sabotage yourself by not doing any of the little things. And health is definitely so critical. So if we're saying we want to stay healthy, be honest and take little steps, right? We can work with becoming healthier without being so strict and so demanding on ourselves that at the first sign of not making enough progress fast enough, that we decide, what, this isn't going to happen. This is impossible. So definitely not take care of our bodies. That's a big one. Healthy food, activities, and eating in general. I mean, that's one of the most common ways that we self-sabotage ourselves is through food. We eat for comfort. We eat to console. We eat to celebrate. We eat when we're bored. I mean, there's so many times that, and if we're eating the wrong stuff, we're eating, high sugar, high carb foods and things like that, because they make us feel good in the moment. That's not helping us in our long-term goal to become more healthy. So something else to think about there. So definitely taking care of ourselves or not taking care of ourselves is self-sabotaging behavior. Another one is not taking care of our minds, right? We talk about wanting to be better versions of ourselves, right? If we're saying, oh, I want to learn more in a foreign language, or I want to learn this new skill, and we don't take the steps, right? Because either we're intimidated, we think it's too hard, or we think it's, again, the goal is too lofty, it's never going to happen. I'm never going to get this, right? So refusing to take care of our mind, and what I mean by that is not taking those steps, not acquiring the knowledge necessary. So if we are taking care of our minds, we are constantly looking for ways to enrich our minds, right? And that could be through new experiences, new skills, new ideas. So really continuing to grow in our, grow our minds, expand our minds, looking for new perspectives, looking for new ways of doing things. When we don't do that, and we're saying we want to grow and we want to improve our skills, we want to be able to do things that require more knowledge, more research, but we're not doing the research, we're not acquiring the knowledge. So that's self-sabotaging behavior. If we say we want to become better at something that requires these new skills, and we're not taking those steps in a routine-like fashion, then that could be self-sabotage as well. Avoiding things we don't want to do. That's another one, right? Because a lot of times the things that we don't want to do are really the things we really need to do, right? And that's just being honest. So if we need to get certain things done in order to reach these goals that we've set for ourselves, but we don't do that because either we think the goals are, we're not making the progress that we expect to make towards those goals, or we just don't want to do the activity because it's boring or it's difficult or whatever it may be. That's self-sabotage. So I think one of the things that is always good to remember, and I try to remind myself of this as well, is that when you set a goal for yourself, and it requires doing things that you're not good at or you don't like to do, your mindset, right? That's where you can change your way of thinking to find something in the task that you can gain and use and leverage in the future. And if we don't look at even the tasks that we would typically call mundane or boring or difficult or time-consuming, whatever they may be, if that's the only way we're looking at them, that is self-sabotage, right? Because we have a goal, there's something we want to accomplish, but we are not seeing the goal in the tasks. We're not aligning what we're doing mentally. Our mindset is not in the space where we are seeing how these dots are connected. So you can easily self-sabotage by just simply not taking those tasks seriously, and not seeing how those tasks really do align with where you're trying to go. So keeping that in mind can help with, deal with that, right? But that's another big one. Another one is taking a passive stance to avoid conflict. I mean, I'm not saying we should be going on arguing with everybody, but if we are feeling a certain way and we feel ignored, and we feel, we don't feel appreciated, we feel as if our opinion doesn't matter, things like that, if we hold that in, that can come back to really hurt, right? That can be self-sabotaging behavior, right? If we only show people the sides of ourselves that we think they want to see because we're afraid to go deeper with those people, that can be self-sabotaging behavior, right? So, and the flip side of that too, right, is that we might be in relationships where we are not our complete, true, naked selves, right, when it comes to talking with certain people. And in certain situations, I get that. If you're in professional situations and you're trying to there's certain things that you need to express in a certain way, and that may not be natural for you, then that's kind of part of the job. But what I'm talking about here is when you have intimate relationships and you have friendships and you have these relationships with people that you want to understand you well and you value their opinion, by not expressing your feelings and simply mirroring what they're saying or what they're feeling, and not going and actually saying, well, I see what you mean, but in my experience, this is kind of how I've seen things. If you don't get out there, that could be self-sabotaging, because two things, right? One is that you're really bottling yourself up. You're bottling your emotions up. You're bottling your personality up a little bit. And that's unnatural. That can lead to stress, right? That can lead to a lot of, that can lead to unpleasant situations and experiences, because you're not letting yourself be who you are to the fullest extent that you would like to, right? And the other thing is, it can damage your relationships long term, right? Because if you are not honest, eventually, if you are not really letting your friends or letting these people in, the intimacy is not not going to be real, right? Because over time it is going to come out. If you say, oh yeah, I like doing this, and they keep saying, okay, well, if you like it, let's do it, and let's do it again, and you're just miserable, and they're just like, what is with you? I mean, you're no fun anymore. You said you like to do these things, and all you do is, you have this attitude whenever we go, or you don't look like you're having a good time. You're always trying to get out of it. That can damage your relationship. So that can also be self-sabotaging behavior. So have those conversations constructively, but have them. So that's something else to think of. Avoiding conflict is, avoiding fighting outright and what we talked about earlier, reacting instead of responding. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about having healthy, constructive conversations, and being honest with ourselves and with others. So another one is procrastinating. So procrastinating, obviously, when there are things you need to do, and you just keep telling yourself you're going to put it off for another day, or tomorrow will be a better day, or this evening will be better than now. And the hardest thing in procrastination, I think, is one of those things that people generalize about and say, oh, they're lazy, they don't want to get things done. I don't really believe that. A lot of people who procrastinate are very hard workers. There may be certain things that they do not want to do, or maybe they need a little bit of that stress. They need to feel the heat of a deadline. But more generally, procrastination can come when you're not ready for something, right? You think that you're not ready, so you put it off a little bit. Or you think you're not as prepared, and you put it off a little bit. When, there often are opportunities to take little bites out of things. And the scary thing, or the thing that really can be difficult with procrastination, is that when we say we're going to put something off, it's usually done under the assumption that the time we're planning to put it off until that time, we're going to have the time to do it. And as we know, life happens, right? So that's the really hard thing about procrastinating, is sometimes it's not one of those things that we're doing and saying, I'm going to put it off because I don't feel like doing it. We're saying, I'm going to put it off because it really requires a little bit more attention than I have right now. So, and I think I'm going to have more time to give this the attention it deserves at this time or on this day. Then that day or time comes, and you find out you're flooded with some other stuff that's come up, and it's gotten in your way again. So breaking it down, right? I think that's been something that's helped me out a lot, is if I've got something big and something important, and I know I need to block out a good amount of time to deal with it, I can start breaking it up and do a little bit now, a little bit later, a little bit now, a little bit later. And that way I'm making progress towards it. That's not saying that I'm still not planning to use that time that I'm saying, tomorrow that I will have. But maybe I'm expecting to have 30 minutes and I actually only end up with 15. Well, if I've broken it down and attacked it a little bit at a time now, then maybe I don't need the full 30 minutes. Maybe I can blast through most of it with just 15. So breaking things down can really help with dealing with procrastination, and it also helps dealing with stress too. Because the last thing I think our bodies really want, right? Because it manifests itself in our bodies, right? We get pains in our stomachs, we get headaches, we can't sleep. All of those things come from stress. So procrastinating is something that can definitely make that more difficult on our bodies. So being able to to identify where we can take little baby steps and break things down into smaller pieces so that we're not putting the whole thing off. We're identifying when we think is a good time to do it, and we realize that it's very important, so we're going to try to chip away at it until that time comes. And that could be as simple as planning, right? It could be putting the plan in place so that when the time is there, we know exactly what to do, right? Because some of the time we end up spending time getting going when it's time to make progress on something important. So that's something to think about there, I think, for all of us. Another one is not finishing what you started, right? Not following through. That's also self-sabotaging behavior, because that can really lead to, all of these things we're talking about. I mean, it hits us really hard on the confidence side if we are dealing with these self-sabotaging situations and we're not identifying them and we're not addressing them. We don't feel good, right? We feel as if we've let ourselves down and others down, and that we're incapable, and that we're falling behind, or we're inundated with too many things, right? So not finishing what you started. If you say you are going to do something, not getting it done, that's something that it can impact you, it can impact others, it can impact relationships. So following through, having the integrity to follow through. Now, going back to what I was saying before, not saying yes all the time when people are asking things of you, this can help you keep those things that you're doing, that you're starting, realistic, right? Another thing is the timeline. Sometimes we give ourselves these timelines that really don't make sense. I mean, they're really timelines on a Mobius strip, right? They're not going to happen. So if we're saying we want to be a good tennis player, if we want to become a good tennis player, that could take a long time. So maybe thinking about, that is not the end, right? Becoming a good tennis player. Maybe if we think about it as learning how to play tennis, finding out where a tennis instructor, finding a good tennis instructor. These can all be starts and stops. These can all be little projects. These can be little activities, events that we can set a timeline on and wrap up into a project and start and finish. So yes, we can have this, I want to be good at tennis, longer term objective, but if we aren't good at tennis in, say, 6 months, who knows? Maybe we'll stop playing tennis because we're like, I'm no good at this. But if we're breaking it down, and if we're saying, this week I'm going to find a tennis instructor, right? And then you get online and that's your week's activity towards your goal. You find a tennis instructor, check. Next is having your first lesson. Get that done, check. Next is learning an overhand, swing and a backhand, check. Next is maybe learning the rules, check. You work your way through that, and that way you have the that feeling of accomplishment. You are getting things done. Yes, you still want to be a great tennis player, but you are breaking things down into goals that are all very important. They're essential. You can't get to becoming a great tennis player without doing these things, right? So finish what we want to finish what we start, but we also want to break down those goals into things we can start and finish in a reasonable amount of time with a reasonable amount of effort, and that are realistic. I'm not saying lower your bar. I'm just saying we need to have high expectations of ourselves, but we also need to understand that each step is critical, and that we need to hit those goals along the way in order to have any chance of reaching this longer term goal that we've set for ourselves. Another one is being indecisive. So we definitely don't want to be indecisive. That's something that'd be very self-sabotaging, because if we aren't able to make a decision, then we never get anywhere, right? So I think that one's a little bit more maybe self-explanatory. But yeah, just really, if you are giving yourself so many options that you aren't able to make a decision and move forward, then cut those options down, right? And it's funny, they've done studies on this when it comes to buying, for example, if you're going out to shop for a watch, right? And you see all these different watches, that can actually make it much harder for you to make a decision. You're less confident because there's like, oh my gosh, well, this one's good, but this one's also kind of good. But if there's only like 4 or 5 watches and you need a watch, you're more likely to make a decision and choose a watch that you like, because it's easier for you to find what's best in a smaller selection. So that's something we can think about. Just moving forward is easier, right? If we really limit our options a little bit and deal with things on a scale that is much more manageable, and that can help with, of course, being more decisive and getting things done and making decisions and moving forward. Another one is our finances, right? I think a lot of us, and I've been guilty of this too, but if you have a goal and you're trying to save up for something, and you really, there's something that you want. Maybe it's, I don't know, you want a new phone or something like that. And you're saying, yeah, I'm going to get a new phone. I'm going to save up for a new phone. But you don't really understand where your money is going. That's self-sabotaging, right? So we need to understand how we're using our funds if we're trying to plan for something that involves money, right? And it can be very easy to just throw up our hands and go, you know what? We need these things that we're paying for, and therefore we just don't have the money to do these other things. When if we take the time and we look at really where our money is going, and we try to understand how can we make some adjustments here and there, oftentimes we can find opportunities. Or maybe it's not just looking at the money that we have in a finite view. Maybe there's other opportunities. Maybe there's other things that we could do. Maybe we could sell some of the things that we have. Whatever it might be, but at least understanding and getting a handle on finances is really critical, right? If we have these goals that have anything to do with being able to use money in a way that we would like to, we just need to understand that flow. So that's something else that can be very self-sabotaging if we don't take the time to really understand what we're doing, what we're spending our money on. If we have these goals that involve, for example, travel, right? And if, say we're training for the Ironman triathlon, the one in Hawaii or something like that, and we've got to travel there, and this is something we've been training for, and we're physically there. We've done the events we need to do to qualify. We want to go do it, but we need the money to get to Hawaii and find a place to stay and the entrance fees and all of that. If you really want it, you really have to dig down and look at what's happening with your finances and figure out how to make that happen. So if the goal is important enough, definitely getting a handle on your finances is important as well. The last one that I wanted to talk about is having a pessimistic approach to life. This is one that is extremely dangerous. And at the same time, it is also extremely common, right? I think a lot of us have bad experiences, and when some of these experiences get, several of them get strung together, we can feel as if the world is against us, the universe is against us, and get really down on ourselves. or we can feel like we can't do anything right, or nothing is going the way it should, or everything I try to do, nothing seems to work. And we get pessimistic and we stop trying to grow. And when we stop trying to grow, that can lead to stress, it can lead to depression, it can lead to a cycle of pessimism. And that's very, very, very unhealthy. So dealing with this, thinking about, of course, like we were talking about before, breaking things down, right? When things start happening to us or feeling like they're happening to us and there's nothing we can do about them and things are going terrible, we need to take the time to remind ourselves what is going well. We need to remind ourselves of all the things that we have, of the relationships that we have, of the people who care about us. And of course, we need to remind ourselves of what we're capable of what we've done that we thought we couldn't do in the past, right? It becomes very important to become grateful. I think in moments like this, it really can help you become less pessimistic, to have a more optimistic outlook on life. But we need to take the time. This is something that if we are constantly running, it's very difficult to deal with. This is something you can't fix while you are in motion, right? This is something you really have to kind of say, okay, let's take a moment. Let's understand how I'm feeling, and let's really deal with this, and let's understand it, and let's put some things in perspective, and let's recenter. And a lot of this can be done with activities like meditation and working with mentors and taking some time for yourself, doing activities you like, whatever. And if these things don't work, seek professional help. Definitely go speak with a therapist. This is a huge one, and this can undermine so many things that you are trying to accomplish. So a pessimistic approach to life. So obviously you will recognize that when you're feeling as if, oh, what's the point, right? Oh, it's never going to work anyway. I don't even know why I'm trying. This isn't going to work out. So if you ever start feeling that way, take a mental note and give yourself some space. Give yourself some time and some space to deal with it. So, and get help if you need it. Definitely get help. There's lots of help out there. So definitely get help if you need it. So I hope this was helpful. So those are some ways that we self-sabotage ourselves and some ways that we can identify. That's the most important thing initially, is to understand, are we self-sabotaging ourselves? We can say, okay, what did I say I was going to do? Is what I'm doing right now really aligned with what I said I was going to do? And it's easy to get caught up in the moment, right? Like we talked about before, self-sabotage can feel great in the moment. You can feel great getting out of that meeting. You feel great, going out and having a huge meal, right? All of these things in the moment are wonderful and they feel great, and they can be comforting and everything. But really identifying, is this really on my path to doing the thing that I said I was going to do next month or next week or next year, whatever it is, and understanding how those dots connect, and really identifying that self-sabotaging behavior or that self-sabotaging mindset, and addressing it and working towards overcoming it by taking some of those steps that we discussed. So that's all I have today. I hope some of you found this helpful. These are real things that I'm sharing with you. I definitely am not saying that I know how to do all of these things. I'm saying that I have been through these things, and these are the things that have helped me. Hopefully they will help you, and hopefully there's something that you can take with this. You can take with you in today's episode. So thanks again for for joining us for another episode of Manifest Your Greatness. And I hope to see you on YouTube, or I hope to have a chance to speak with you in a podcast soon. Have a great day, everyone, and I look forward to getting in touch again very soon.